Bo Nix deserves a lot more love in the Heisman conversation. This is a player who continues to almost fly under the radar in that regard. Now, there are people that are putting him in the rankings, but he is not high enough, in my opinion. When you look at what he's done against certain teams, maybe his numbers don't impress you in certain games, but his numbers are comparable to a lot of the guys that we're talking about in the Heisman conversation, and that includes within his own conference. Obviously, guys like Caleb Williams, Michael Penix Jr. are getting a ton of love, but Bo Nix deserves to be in that conversation. We'll talk about why today. We saw exactly why Bo Nix is such a valuable player to the Oregon Ducks, and we saw why he deserves to be in the Heisman conversation. And he does some things that it's not necessarily he's putting up the biggest numbers, but he makes the clutch throws. He makes the right decisions and he makes really smart decisions. And obviously, you can't want a Heisman just making smart decisions, but he plays really well in big games. And that's really, to me, what stands out the most for him. Has a little bit of ways to go if you're going to put up numbers like Caleb or Michael Penix Jr. But I think that there's certain players, JJ McCarthy, that I don't know why JJ McCarthy should be above Bo Nix, because Bo Nix has been one of the most valuable players in college football, specifically for Oregon, obviously. When you look at some of the games that Oregon's played, the Texas Tech game obviously was not their greatest performance, but Bo Nix made sure that they played at a high level. They were in the Washington game because Bo Nix was making smart decisions. He was making big time throws. Obviously, there was a couple in that game he didn't make, but he is making the right call. Today was another good example of the difference between Oregon and Utah. And Utah, we knew the offense didn't have the explosive weapons that Oregon did. And we knew that this team, the game would come down to who wins the line of scrimmage. And it also came down to what Oregon could do on third down. There were a number of third downs that were in tough situations. The crowd was into it. It was a little bit longer distance to convert. And Bo Nix, not only did he make the throw, but he made the right call, he made the right checks, and he stayed calm even when it was a very tense situation. He made a number of correct decisions. He made a number of big time throws, and he is putting up numbers and being really efficient with the football. Now, I'm not saying that he should win the Heisman because there's obviously some players that are putting up bigger numbers than him. But when you look at his stats compared to some of the people that everybody's putting higher than him, it doesn't make sense, especially with the competition he's played. You look at the one that obviously that stands out is McCarthy. When you look at who Oregon's played versus who Michigan has played, there's no reason why JJ McCarthy should be above Bo Nix. I just don't see it. Bo Nix has comparable numbers, if not better, and he's played tougher competition. So you're telling me that playing tougher competition doesn't matter? I think that you're looking at the fact, obviously, that Michigan is undefeated, but they haven't played anybody. Oregon has one loss, and their one loss was to a Washington team that's really good, struggling maybe a little bit recently, but still a really good team. And they lost to them by three. So I think that you're looking at Bo Nix as a Heisman contender, maybe not in the right lens. You need to see him for what he's worth. And he's a good player in college football and deserves more love than he's getting. And the biggest thing, and I think the transformation is really what gets me because we'll kind of segue into this game. The reason why Oregon was so good today was winning the line of scrimmage, but it was also because Bo Nix made the right decision and he was smart with the football. When he came from Auburn, the one thing we talked about with Bo Nix was he just chucks it up and prays, and he makes some really poor decisions, and that needs to change if Oregon wanted to be good. That has changed. The last 2 years, we have seen Bo Nix become almost a completely different player. We've seen him play within the structure. We've seen him make smart decisions. Seen him stay poised. He has the talent around him to finally feel comfortable in his system. He has the talent around him to make big plays, and he knows that he doesn't have to be the hero all the time. And a lot of times at Auburn, we saw him try to do a lot of things that were careless or reckless, and now we're not seeing that because he trusts that his teammates will have his back. He trusts that his players around him, the coaching staff are having his best interests in mind, and playing as a team is really the first thing that he's concerned about. And so far they've done really well. I think that the loss to Washington also isn't on them. That's on the coaching staff. And Dan Lanning obviously talked about how that was on him, and he's taking responsibility for that. So now they're just focused on getting to the Pac-12 championship, getting to the college football playoff. And right now, this is an Oregon team that is playing lights out. I think that the win against Utah, we knew that Utah couldn't hang if Oregon played its best game, and we saw exactly that. This is still a very good Utah team. The score doesn't indicate how good that team is, but this is a big win for Oregon, and they were the better team, obviously, and they played well together. There weren't a ton of individual performances that would stand out. I mean, you can point out certain guys. Bucky Irving obviously is really good. Troy Franklin's good. The defense, Jordan Birch and that defensive line were making life miserable for the Utah offensive line. But this is just a good team win. Oregon played really hard. They were thumping Utah. They were hitting hard. They were getting to the football. They were rallying to the football. They were making plays in the backfield. They were doing anything and everything they needed to do to win this game comfortably. And a 35-6 win almost seems a little bit too close, but it was domination by the Ducks. And Bo Nix obviously played a role in that. His ability to stay poised is what will get them far. His ability to lead them in the tough moments on those third downs. When you look at their third down conversion rate today, the numbers don't give it justice as to how good it was because Bo Nix made a number of checks and smart decisions to help Oregon advance the football. So that's definitely something to keep an eye on going down the road. So, like I said, Bo Nix deserves more love in the Heisman conversation. Oregon is still a legitimate college football playoff contender. And I think when you're looking at it, this is a team that is playing the right way. They are playing well as a whole, and their quarterback, like I said, deserves more love than he's getting.